Get out of my house! Renata Wells screamed it so loud, the neighbors 2 lots down heard her through closed windows. Her voice cracked on the word house because some small part of her already knew. She wasn't screaming because she owned that house. She was screaming because she was about to lose it. And the man standing in the doorway, the man she was screaming at, he didn't raise his voice. He didn't even blink. He smiled. Then he reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and calmly said 4 words that would end her life as she knew it. "Sheriff, she's trespassing." What Renata didn't know, what she refused to believe, was that the house she was standing in had never belonged to her. Not for one single day. This is the story of Desmond Achilles Crown, a man who built an empire out of nothing, married the wrong woman, and almost lost everything before he learned the one lesson that saved him. Never let someone hold a knife to your throat with a deed you never gave them. Desmond didn't grow up rich. He grew up in a 1-bedroom apartment in Birmingham, Alabama, sharing a mattress on the floor with 2 younger brothers, listening to his mother cry quietly in the kitchen on nights the lights got cut off. By 12, he was already counting things other kids didn't think about. How much a loaf of bread cost versus how much his mother made an hour. How many days were left before rent was due. How fast a dollar disappeared once it touched his hands. He used to ask himself one question over and over, lying on that mattress, staring at the ceiling. What does it actually take to never feel this small again? By 17, he had an answer. Not luck, not talent, leverage. Whoever controlled the asset controlled the outcome. And he decided right then he would never again be the man standing outside a door he didn't have the keys to. He started flipping sneakers, then flipping phones. Then, at 22, flipping a foreclosed duplex he bought with money he shouldn't have had access to, and a contract he read 4 times before signing. By 34, Desmond Crown wasn't flipping houses anymore. He owned a real estate empire spanning 6 states, worth more than $400 million. And that's exactly when Renata Wells walked into his life. Charming, magnetic, and far more interested in what he owned than who he was. Did Desmond see it coming? Or was he so used to building walls around his money that he forgot to build one around his heart? Renata was beautiful in the way that made rooms quiet down. She knew how to laugh at the right moment, touch your arm at the right time, make you feel like the smartest man in the building. What Desmond didn't know, not for years, was that Renata had done this before. Twice. 2 previous marriages, 2 divorces, 2 settlements that left her comfortable enough to never work another day in her life. She wasn't looking for love. She was looking for an asset with a pulse. She married Desmond 18 months after they met. He bought her a 6-bedroom estate in Atlanta as a wedding gift. 12,000 square feet, a guest house, a koi pond, she said reminded her of peace. But here's what almost nobody noticed. Desmond didn't put that house in both their names. He put it in a living trust, one he controlled completely. Why would a man hand over a $4 million mansion to his new wife and still keep the deed locked under his own name? Because Desmond Crown had learned something a long time ago on that mattress in Birmingham. Love doesn't protect you. Paperwork does. Renata never read the trust documents. She signed where she was told, smiled for the photos, and assumed, like so many people assume, that her name on the welcome mat meant her name was on the title. It wasn't. 3 years into the marriage, Renata started disappearing. Long lunches that stretched into long evenings. A business consultant named Trevor, who somehow needed to meet her at hotels instead of offices. Desmond noticed. Desmond always noticed. That was the skill that built his fortune. But he didn't say anything. Not yet. Instead, he did what he always did when something threatened an asset. He quietly gathered information. Bank statements, hotel records, a private investigator's report that sat in his home office safe for 6 weeks before he ever opened it. When he finally read it, sitting alone at 2 in the morning, he didn't cry. He didn't break a single glass. He just sat there, staring at 23 photographs, feeling something colder than rage settle into his chest. Because here's a truth nobody tells you about betrayal. The moment you finally see it clearly, you don't fall apart. You start planning. The very next morning, Desmond called his attorney. Not a divorce lawyer, not yet. His estate attorney, the one who drafted that trust 3 years earlier. "I need you to confirm something for me," Desmond said. "Tell me exactly what happens if my marriage ends tomorrow." What he heard back made him smile for the first time in 6 weeks. What had Desmond actually built into that trust the day he signed it? And did Renata have any idea the walls she was living inside of were never hers to begin with? Before we get into what happened next, if stories like this keep you up at night wondering how it all unravels, hit subscribe and turn on the bell, because what Renata finds out next changes everything. Desmond waited 4 more months, not out of weakness, out of strategy. He documented everything. He moved certain accounts. He quietly transferred his primary residency status. And the entire time, Renata kept living her double life, utterly convinced she held all the cards. Then, on a Tuesday morning in October, Desmond walked into the kitchen of that 12,000-square-foot house, set a manila folder on the marble island, and said one sentence: "I want a divorce, and I want you out by Friday." Renata laughed. Actually laughed. The kind of laugh people give when they think they've already won. "Out of my house?" she said. "Desmond, baby, you signed this place over to me the day we got married. My name is on that welcome mat. My name is on those mailboxes. This is my house." She wasn't lying because she was evil. She was lying because she genuinely believed it. 3 years of luxury had convinced her that comfort equals ownership. "Check the deed," Desmond said quietly, and walked out. That should have been the end of it. But Renata, certain she was right, called her own attorney that same afternoon. And that's when the first crack in her certainty appeared. Her attorney went silent on the phone for almost 30 seconds before saying the words that should have terrified her. "Renata, your name isn't on this title. It never was." 3 days later, moving trucks Renata never authorized showed up at the estate, sent by Desmond to remove only his belongings, while leaving her the unmistakable message that the locks were already scheduled to change. That's when she lost it completely. That's when she stood in the doorway of a house she never legally owned and screamed the 5 words that opened this story: "Get out of my house!" And that's the exact moment Desmond smiled, lifted his phone, and called the sheriff. If you've made it this far, you already know this story isn't done. Subscribe now and tap that bell, because what happens when that sheriff knocks is about to flip everything you think you know. The sheriff's deputy arrived 11 minutes later, calm, procedural, completely unmoved by Renata's screaming. "Ma'am, I need to see proof of residency or ownership," the deputy said. Renata reached for her purse, fumbling for documents that didn't exist, because there were none. Her name had never been on a single legal document tied to that property. Not the deed, not the trust, Not even the property tax filing. Desmond stood there, arms crossed, saying nothing, letting the silence do what 3 years of marriage couldn't: show her exactly who held the power the entire time. "Sir," the deputy said, turning to Desmond, "is this woman currently residing in a property you own?" "She was," Desmond said. "As of this morning, her residency rights were formally terminated. She has 30 minutes to gather personal belongings, escorted." Renata's scream turned into something smaller, something that sounded less like rage and more like fear. "Desmond, please, we can talk about this. I made mistakes, but you can't just—" "I can," he said. "And I did. 3 years ago, actually. The day I signed the trust you never bothered to read. Have you ever watched someone realize, in real time, that the foundation they built their entire identity on was never solid to begin with?" Renata had 30 minutes. She used 29 of them crying. She used the last one staring at Desmond like she was seeing him, really seeing him, for the very first time. 6 months later, Renata was renting a one-bedroom apartment on the other side of Atlanta, working a marketing job that paid a fraction of what she was used to spending on shoes alone. Desmond, meanwhile, didn't celebrate. He didn't gloat online or tell the story to friends as a victory. He simply went back to building, quieter, sharper, more guarded than before. But here's what nobody expected. 6 months after the divorce, Desmond ran into Renata at a charity gala. Neither of them knew the other would attend. She approached him, humbled in a way he'd never seen. "I owe you an apology," she said. "Not because I lost the house, because I never actually loved you enough to deserve it." Desmond looked at her for a long moment. "I learned a long time ago," he said, "that people will tell you who they are through what they fight for. You fought for a house. Never once in 3 years did you fight for me." He walked away, not with bitterness, with peace, because the real victory was never the house, the trust, or the sheriff at the door. The real victory was a boy from Birmingham finally understanding that the people who truly love you never need a deed to prove it. And the ones who do were never really there for you at all. What would you have done in Desmond's position? Protected your fortune in silence for years, the way he did? Or confronted the truth the moment you first suspected it?